So welcome everyone. This is a short video clip before we present to you the full keynote speech from the Career Conference, the Career Development Conference 2011. And just had an opportunity to meet again with Sareena Hopkins. She's with the Canadian Career Development Foundation, and I thought we'd have a quick chat just so she can do a little bit of a preview or a setup on the keynote speech and how it came about. So thanks again for meeting.
My pleasure, thank you.
Great, so why don't you tell us a little bit about kind of your mindset when you were coming into the conference,
Sure.
when you were preparing your keynote.
Sure. Well, I had been in touch with several different folks in BC about what's been happening recently, and read the tome of the RFP, and so had a bit of a sense of the situation in BC and some of the challenges that a number of practitioners are potentially facing. And I'd actually been asked to keynote 2 years ago, and it was on the heels of me having completed some research on the construct of resilience. And it is a construct that kind of has captivated me. I see a lot of applications both for our clients, but also for us as practitioners, and for us as a profession more globally. And so when I was asked 2 years ago, turns out I wasn't able to come. The timing didn't work, and when you asked me to come this time, it actually kind of felt like the message was maybe even a better fit this time around than it would have been a couple of years ago. So, so I tried to draw on that research as well as what I've been seeing happening in our field, other places in Canada and around the world, because I'm seeing some real pockets of hope and some exciting things happening. So I tried to kind of pull on those two pieces and pull them together into some concrete and practical tips around resilience building.
Great, and as you'll see in the presentation, both from what Sareena said as well as your slides, that you have some key tips on us building our own resilience.
Right. Yeah, and they touch both sort of strategies that are more personal, as well as strategies that I really believe contribute to strengthening us as a profession broadly. So things like, having a voice around advocacy. It's, as long as our field isn't clearly understood by policymakers and politicians and the public, I think we're always kind of going on bended knee for funding. And so how do you do that? Well, part of it is being able to prove our worth by embracing evaluation. Part of it is learning how to talk the language of policymakers and funders. And so there's kind of a blend of both personal resilience tips as well as sort of broader professional resilience tips.
Great, and another thing I love is that you also brought the perspective of how our profession, we get so caught up in the day-to-day. So we've had our association merger, and we're growing now, and then we've had all these changes that we can kind of get nearsighted in terms of who we are, but we're part of something much bigger than just BC and ourselves, right?
It's true. I mean, that the profession is really flourishing in many, many ways, both in Canada and internationally. I mean, in Canada, it wasn't that long ago that BC, Alberta, and Quebec were the only provinces to have a professional association, and there's just been an incredible momentum happening across the country where one after another provinces are forming professional associations, talking about certification, getting reconnected to the Canadian standards and guidelines, thinking about mobility, thinking about professional development. There's been incredible investments by provinces in training career practitioners. There's now, I think, 5 provinces that have invested significantly in training their career and employment counselors. And that speaks to, they do that because they value the work that career practitioners are doing. They understand it enough to care about it and see its value. And so that's happening, in some pockets of Canada where policymakers and funders really get it and really see the value of what we're doing and are willing to put money behind that.
Right.
We now have the Canadian Council of Career Development Associations, which is trying to bring together all of these now formed associations across the country, along with other career organizations, to talk about some of our shared issues, to have a voice for advocacy, to share the research that we're doing around building the evidence base, to look at cohesion and consistency around certification so practitioners can be mobile across the country. So that's a really exciting development from my point of view too, in terms of strengthening and building the cohesion of our field.
Right.
And then internationally, you know, we have the International Association for Educational and Vocational Guidance, and it too is growing. There's someone in the neighborhood of 20,000 members from around the world.
Wow.
And you know, it's in today's world, it's, you know, that community is right at our fingertips, because wherever you live, you can be part of that community.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's really exciting, and I really appreciate the perspective that you brought to our conference. And we had so many great comments that I wanted to be able to share your presentation with more people. And so really this video is just an introduction and kind of a teaser to say it's really worth listening to the keynote. And it is just the audio, but we also have put it together with the slides that you presented, which is great and goes along with the story that you presented that really brought your what you were teaching to light. So thank you very much.
Well, it was my absolute pleasure. It was a joy to be at the conference with you, and it's my pleasure that it's going to be spread a little further this way.
That's great. So thank you very much, and so stay tuned and connect to the presentation.